Saturday morning, Melrose Mountain, 80 degrees, and we're looking for probably a high of about 84. And beautiful sunny day. I don't know how well you can see out the window. It's very, very difficult to get inside pictures and outside pictures simultaneously. It's football season, and I'm not a great football fan, but there's no question that as you move from area to area, you have to take on some allegiance to the teams that are in the area. So I've been watching the Panthers a little bit. I'm really thrilled when they win because Krispy Kreme Donuts offers a special deal on donuts every time they win, and both North and South Carolina gets a special deal on Krispy Kreme donuts. But I was thinking back because of the news and things that are going on in the world today. Just a few years ago, we were all outraged when a quarterback from the Falcons named Vic was having dogfighting matches in his own property, and the cruelty to the animals. Now the big word around South Carolina and North Carolina is puppy mills. Maybe it's not made the news down where you are or wherever you are watching this, but puppy mills are places where people just inhumanely keep dogs for breeding purposes to sell puppies so they can make a lot of money, but they treat the dogs very poorly. They don't give them the medical care that they need, and very often they go hungry and without the treatment for illnesses that they need. People have been outraged all through the Carolinas. Laws are being written to try to bring about humane conditions. We all have great sympathy when we get a mailing from the Humane Society, or the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals groups, and we see those emaciated dogs and cats and the mistreatment that they've had. And as a matter of fact, I saw in the news this week where they shut down a telephone, or excuse me, shut down a railroad line because there were a couple of kittens on the track. And so we see this great compassion for animals and great compassion for the mistreatment of these animals. And it brought me to think about the story of Jonah. You all know the story of Jonah. You know how he disobeyed God, went the opposite direction than to go to Nineveh, was disobedient, swallowed by a large fish, finally came to a place of calling out to God, and God placed him back at Nineveh. And there he preached the message of judgment coming. The Ninevites' revival occurred, and the people were spared. And then Jonah sat out feeling sorry for himself because he really wasn't happy about the people avoiding the great wrath of God. And there God allowed a plant to grow up to give Jonah shade, and then he allowed a worm to eat that plant. And the bottom line was really interesting because in Jonah chapter 4 it says, "Then the Lord said, you had compassion on the plant for which you did not work, which you did not cause to grow, which came up overnight and perished overnight. Should I not have compassion on Nineveh, the great city in which there are more than 120,000 persons who do not know the difference between right and their left hand?" Well, that's really quite an interesting statement, because God is saying you had compassion on a plant, but you don't have compassion on humans. And it brought me back to those animals. We have great compassion for those animals, and we should. We have a cat that we love dearly, and we have tremendous compassion for her needs. But I wonder, sometimes is our compassion as great for the people around us as it is for our pets, for dogs and cats, which we don't even know, for the puppy mills, for the dog fighting, or how about for abortion, where we willy-nilly just don't pay a lot of attention to the fact that there are abortion clinics that are aborting babies at full term. They've gone all 9 months. There's nothing wrong with the child. And there are hundreds and hundreds of families that would love to adopt a child, and yet they're aborted. They're killed. Do we have the same compassion for people that we have for pets and for animals? Well, I think we need to have more compassion for lost souls, for those that would spend an eternity separated from God. That's what God was trying to say to Jonah. You had compassion for this plant, which you didn't do anything for, yet you didn't have compassion on 120,000 persons. Now, lest you think I don't have any compassion for pets or for animals, or that you think that I don't care about them, I want you to know that God does care about them, and so do I. For you see, that passage of scripture I read to you for just a few minutes says not only they do not know the right hand from the left, he says 120,000 persons, as well as many animals. God knew about the animals in Nineveh, and he cared about them. He cared about them enough to record them in scripture. But if we'll have compassion for plants and we'll have compassion for animals, let's have compassion for human souls. Let's be sure that we share the good news of Jesus Christ before it's too late for many of these who will be separated from God for eternity. It's a good thought, isn't it? To have the compassion, and to have the compassion in the right priority. For we certainly need to have compassion on all, but particularly for those that are lost. I hope you'll share your faith this day. God bless you and have a wonderful holiday weekend.